Shire that dare disobey the warrant of our sovereign lord, King Harry, for by the shrine of Saint Benevil hang him 40 cubits high. But if no man in Nottingham dare to win 80 angels, I will send elsewhere, for there should be men of metal somewhere in this land. Then he called up a messenger, in whom he placed great trust, and bade him saddle his horse and made ready to go much stronger. And the gin he be sly, am I not slyer? Now by the bright eyes of Nan o' the Mill, and by mine own name, and that's what o' the crab staff, and by mine own mother's son, and that's myself, will I, even I, what o' the crab staff, meet this same sturdy rogue and gin. He mind not the seal of our glorious sovereign, King Harry, and the warrant of the good sheriff of Nottinghamshire. I will so bruise, beat, and bramall his plate, that he shall never move one finger or toe again. Hear ye that, bully boys? Come, let us have another bout. Now art thou the man for my farthing, cried the messenger, and the back thou goest with me to Nottingham town. Nay, quoth the tinker, shaking his head slowly from side to side. Go I with no man, gin, it be not with mine own free will. Nay, nay, said the messenger, no man is there in Nottinghamshire. Could I make thee go against thy will, thou brave fellow? Aye, that be I brave, said the tinker. Aye, marry, said the messenger, thou art a brave lad, but our good sheriff hath offered 80 angels of bright gold to whoever shall serve the warrant upon Robin Hood, though little good will it do. Then I will go with thee, lad, but do wait till I get my bag and hammer and my cudgel. Aye, let me but meet this same Robin Hood, and let me see whether he will not mind the king's warrant. So after having paid their score, the messengers, with the tinker striding behind his nag, started back to Nottingham again. One bright morning soon after this time, Robin Hood started off to Nottingham town to find what a doing there. Walking merrily along the roadside where the grass was sweet with daisies, and his eyes wandering, and his thoughts also. His bugle horn hung in his hip, and his bow and arrows at his back, while in his hand he bore a good stout oaken staff, which he twirled with his fingers as he strolled along. As thus he walked down a shady lane, he saw a tinker coming, strolling a merry song as he drew nigh. On his back hung his bag and his hammer, and in his hand he carried a right stout crab staff, full 6 feet long. And thus sang he, in peace God time on own door, gives ear till buck be killed, and little lads with pipers of corn sit keeping beast afield. Holla, good friend, cried Robin, I went to gather strawberries. Holla, cried Robin again, by woods and groves full fair. Holla, art deaf man, good friend, say I, and who art dost so boldly check a fair song? Quoth the tinker, stopped in his singing. Holla thine own self, whether thou be good friend or no. But let me tell thee, thou stout fellow, gin be thou a good friend, where it will well for both. But gin thou be no good friends, it will be ill for thee. Then let us be good friends, quoth jolly Robin, for it will be ill. And ill like I thine oaken staff full well to make it, but well, so good friends let us be. Aye, marry, then let us be, said the tinker. But good youth, thy tongue runneth so nimbly that my poor and heavy wits can but ill follow it. So I talk more plainly, I pray, for I am a plain man forsooth. And whence cometh thou, my lusty blade? Quoth Robin. I come from Banbury, answered the tinker. Alas, quoth Robin, I hear this is sad news, this merry morn. It is indeed so, cried the tinker easily. Prithee tell it speedily, for I am tinker by trade, as thou seest, and as I am in my trade, I am greedy for news, even as a priest is greedy for far things. Well then, quoth Robin, list thou, and I will tell, but bear thyself up bravely, for the news is was as an egg of meat. Now I love thee as my brother, my bully blade, and the tinker, else I would not tell by thee my news for sly. I am man, I have come hand a grave undertaking that doth call for all my wits, for I come to seek a bold outlaw that men whereabouts call Robin Hood. Within my pouch I have a warrant, all fairly written out on parchment, forsooth, with a great red seal to make it lawful. Could I but meet the same Robin Hood, I would serve it upon his dainty body, and if he minded it, I would not beat him till every one of his ribs would cry, Amen. But thou livest hereabouts, and mayhap thou knowest Robin Hood, thyself, good fellow. Ay, marry, that do I somewhat, quoth Robin, and I have seen him this very morn, but tinker men say that he is a bit sad, thy thief. Thou hast better watch thy warrant, man, or else he may steal it out of thy very pouch. Let him but try, said the tinker, sly may he be, but sly I am too. I would I had him here, how now bent man, and he made his heavy cudgel to spin again. What matter of man is he, lad? Much like myself, said Robin, laughing, and in height, build, and age nigh and same. He hath blue eyes too, like mine. Nay, quoth the tinker, thou art but a green youth. I thought him to be a great bearded man. Nottingham men feared him so. Truly he is not so old nor so stout as thou art, said Robin, but men do call him a right deft hand at quarterstaff. That may be, said the tinker, right sturdily, but I am more deft than he, for I did not overcome Simon of Ely in a fair bout in the ring of Hertford Town. But if thou knowest him, my jolly bright angels have, the sheriff promised me that I served the warrant upon the knave's body, and 10 of them I give to thee if thou showest me him. Aye, that I will, quoth Robin, but show me thy warrant, man, until I see whether it be good or no. That I will not do, even to mine own brother, answered the tinker. No man shall see my warrant till I serve it upon your fellow's own body. So be it, quoth Robin, and thou show it not to me. I know not to whom thou wilt show it. But here we are at the sign of the Blue Bar, so let us in and taste his brown October. No sweeter inn could be found in all Nottinghamshire than that of the Blue Bar. None had such lovely trees standing around, nor was it covered with trailing clematis and sweet woodbine. None had such good beer and such humming ale, nor in winter time, when the north wind howled and snow drifted around the hedges, was there to be found elsewhere such a roaring fire as blazed upon the hearth of Blue Bar. And such times might be found good company of yeomen or country folk punish those that come into the greenwood to deal toll to me. And for thine own self, never I knew landlord yet that would not charge twice as he could